everyone. I'm Gary McLean, and you're watching Talent Talk. Thanks for tuning in. Just a reminder that if you haven't done so already, please do subscribe to the Talent Talk YouTube channel. Your support is always appreciated. On another note, this is a live and interactive show, so if you have any comments or questions, feel free to write them down in the comments section, and we'll make every effort to have our guest answer them. Now, for today's guest, he's been acting and performing since he was a young lad. He is probably best known for his role as Lester Patel on NBC's Chuck, which ran between 2007 and 2012. His role as Lester became a bit of a pillar of the show, being one half of the dynamic music duo Jeffster, which is now available on Spotify. As we will find out during this episode, he brings a lot of depth to each and every character he portrays on screen, and there's no shortage of projects to see him in, with more than 80 IMDb credits, and he's just getting started. So please join me in welcoming Mr. Vik Sahay.
Hey!
How's it going, Vik?
Oh, it's me?
That's you!
How's it going? I am, you've begun with the hardest question.
It is always the hardest question.
It's always the hardest.
Actually, I find that one, and what's for dinner? I don't know.
Those two. What are we going to eat, and how are you?
Just never know.
Now, how are you?
I'm doing all right. Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to this chat. I think it'll be a good one.
Don't just lower
the expectations.
Yeah, immediately. Immediately.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So kind of as I mentioned that you've been doing this for a while, I think.
Yeah.
And kind of a general question I ask most of my guests is, what drove you to this madness to want to act?
Yeah, it is madness. There's no doubt about it. It's well put. And the answer to that question is, I haven't a clue. I really don't know. I feel it was never something that was in my world growing up, in my family. I didn't know anything about it. I think, I spent a lot of time in my own imagination as a child by myself. So there was something brewing. I had severe night terrors as a child, where I would be found outside and screaming, pointing at corners. So there was something always there, but I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what it had to do with. And I suppose one day I walked into some kind of a drama class, and it was, I guess it was revealing. It was opening. I'm not sure of the language. There was just a compulsion, an impulse, an instinct that came not as part of the performance aspect of it, if that doesn't sound too counterintuitive, but sort of more out of the inhabiting of something, of someone else, of another world, pipelining that to myself, or whatever you want to call it. And one thing slowly, sort of almost unconsciously, subconsciously, led to the other, and then I was in the world, in the industry, and that was its own shock and nightmare.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And let's dive right into the whole industry side of it.
Come on.
How did you find any struggles along the way?
No, it's all been absolutely no struggles.
Perfect. Man, you're living the dream.
Well, good night.
Yeah, it's nice talking to you.
Yeah.
See you later.
Yeah, see you later.
Yeah, no, I'm just wondering if you had any, and I don't mean struggles in terms of, remembering lines or anything like that. Just struggles in terms of being taken seriously, with your ethnicity or anything like that. Did you find any struggles that way?
Constant and still and relentlessly. It's a brutal industry if you are a white man. There is a inherent contradiction in the art being attached to the industry. The art requires sensitivity, vulnerability, availability, openness, and the industry requires steel. And those two things being these Siamese twins is its own incredibly rough pursuit. You add to that being a person of color and having only certain roles available to you, roles that don't represent anything, rules to those roles. You know, yeah, just roles that don't have anything to them, I think is the key. And then whatever racism, prejudice, fear goes along with all of that, what that means. I mean, I could tell you a story. I don't know if I should, but since you're forcing me to, when I moved to Los Angeles to do Chuck, I went out for a night of South Asian actors, and it was one of my first, few weeks here, and I think I've told this story before, but like one of them took me aside, or a few of them took me aside, and they said, "You're gonna have a little bit of trouble here." And I was like, "Oh, well, nice to meet you, but what do you mean?" And they were like, they want us to be eunuchs, and you do not have a eunuch energy. That's what they said. And I have found that to be very true in various different forms. Look, I think it's important to also underline this with great gratitude, because I've been very lucky. But it would be irresponsible of me not to say that the answer to your question is yes. Yes, there are struggles that are inherent in what the industry is in relation to the art, and 100-fold being a person of color.
Now, to be honest, I've always kind of struggled with this whole aspect of it, especially in this industry, because there is such a melting pot of different, ethnicities, personalities, that you would think we would just kind of get along because we have to. I know it's,
I'm
maybe
not laughing at you. I'm laughing with your beautiful optimism, your beautiful view of it, your lack of cynicism, which I
it's okay. You can say naivety. That's fine.
No, I mean it's not, but it's not naive. It's what you want. But let me ask you something. When you say we would have to get along, what do you mean by that?
Well, just regardless of what your race, your religion, whatever, if we're both cast in the same scenario, like same project, yes, you can be professional, but I don't know. I just figured there'd be more of a unison between the people that are in that project.
But we're not cast in the same project, Gary. We're not cast in the same.
Not
project.
Yet. Not yet.
Yeah. No, not literally. You and I are not. Although this is the same project. I mean, we're not. We have different opportunities. We have different opportunities. I have maybe a shot at one role that's very often some kind of a bland support, and I am up against every other person of color, and then the other 7 roles are going to go to, generally, in the past, I think there is some movement to people of not color, as 'twere. So we're not just, it's not like we're 2 colleagues, both of us co-starring in the same project, and that's the issue. It's that I'm not even getting a chance to be on the playing field in these kind of scenarios.
Yeah, no, that's an absolutely fair point. Which, is another question that kind of blows my mind. And I've had this conversation with another colleague, and I'm kind of curious what your thoughts would be on it in terms, because of course he's another ethnic actor, and of course he would always get pigeonholed into certain characters because of his ethnicity.
Yeah.
Whereas you got the white guy playing the white lawyer, well, why couldn't he play the lawyer?
Right.
There's absolutely no reason for it. I'm just kind of curious, especially over recent years, have you seen at least a bit of growth in that
Yeah.
approach?
Look, I mean, there is a dawning. There's a something it feels maybe emergent. There's the beginnings of conversations. There are certainly examples today where you can look at and go, look, this happened, the Oscar nominations and whatnot. But then, a few weeks ago, we had the Golden Globe nominations. So there is a dawning. The question, of course, always for me is, people try to make surface changes, showy changes, the most visible changes, and then go, great, there, we did it. And the problem is systemic. It's in the root system. And if you stop there, then when the person's not looking, it'll just slip back or something like that. Yeah, things are altering. In terms of your question about getting pigeonholed into certain roles, the irony is that there's a pigeonholing of, let's say, what the powers that be at this point see as a South Asian actor, right? So there's a pigeonholing of that. But if you don't, as a South Asian actor, fit into that pigeonhole, there's a different kind of struggle to even get into the game.
Right.
Right. And it's hard. When I talk about things being systemic, storytelling is like it's an ancient and sacred right, that derives from every lineage on the planet. Every culture has a form of storytelling in its root systems. And so you have an industry that is storytelling based, that is storytelling. And if it tells the stories of only a select group of people, that does harm, right? That does harm. And it tells the people whose stories aren't told that they're not deemed important or worthy, and that they don't matter, and that they and their communities are not valued in the culture, and they're innately invisible, and that there's nothing wrong with that. And so, this is a I'm glad things are moving, right? The backlash in society has been harsh sometimes, ugly. But maybe, to speak without cynicism, maybe we are starting to click forward in the right direction.
I'm hoping so anyway.
Yeah.
It's definitely something I never really understood for sure.
Right.
But
I hope I cleared it up for you with my babbling. I'm sure it's all completely clear now.
Clear as mud. Just, yeah. So I'm going to change direction a direction a little bit.
Come on, man.
That was actually more political than I really intended on getting.
Okay. I like it.
But I'm gonna actually jump right into Chuck, because I know some of the viewers, that's kind of what they're waiting on.
Do it.
One question I have is, Lester Patel, obviously, is the character you portrayed. Is he the character you actually auditioned for?
The lore of the tale of the Lester Patel audition. The answer is no. Okay. I think I've told this. I've read for Morgan, and the role of Morgan, I read 5 times for it, and in bigger and bigger and more daunting and frightening and horrifying circumstances, more studio executives, more network executives, and it came down essentially to me and some other guy. To me and Joshua, somebody named Joshua, and I can't remember who got it. Right, he got it. He got it.
Oh.
And I went back to my hotel, because I was just here for a visit, and wept very profusely and howled at the moon and tore some hair out and cried, probably punched a wall, and then went to the hospital to fix my hand, probably. And then a day or two later, or maybe the next day, I got a call.
You just lost your audio.
Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you.
Okay, weird. Yeah, I literally, this phone just rang, even though I have all notifications off. See, tech. Not good at tech, despite having played Leicester.
Yes.
Yeah, so I got a call. Where was I? I got a call the next day saying they want you to play Patel. And I was like, right, who's Lester? And so I, went through the script, and there was one line. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. I'm like paying this hotel by the week or whatever it is. I'm renting a car. I got to go back to Toronto. And my manager at the time, in her infinite wisdom, said, who are you to say no to anything? And so I said, yes, okay. And I went and I did it. And I just decided to jump off the cliff. And when they said action, I started improvising. And I sort of started to improvise around this idea that while everybody else really likes Chuck, Lester does not. And they went cut, and it was silent, and they went more. And thus began the major kind of improvisational nature of what I did. I mean, the writing was amazing, but on Lester, and I shot in the pilot. And then when the pilot was finally made, they cut it all out, back down to that one line. So I then went back to Toronto and, was living my life, and heard somewhere that the show had been picked up. Okay. I don't know where. I didn't know anything about my participation or anything until a little while later. I got a call saying, will you come back to LA and do the first episode, in which you have a couple of lines? And I was like, oh God, okay. So I flew back to LA, put myself up in a hotel, rented a car, drove to, Warner Brothers, did that thing, came back, was ready to go home. And they were like, hey, listen, you're actually in the next episode. Can you stay a little bit more? And that went on for 6 months.
Really?
Yeah. With me renewing the hotel, renewing the car week to week. I mean, I was like in hair and makeup going, can I sneak a peek? They had advanced copies of, and just scrolling through, because I had to call the rental company and all that. And then the writer's strike happened. There was a writer's strike around that time, and there was a few months off. And when we came back, they, of course, made me a full-time part of the team.
So, nice. Yeah. And I'm sure a lot of people watching, in fact, one person already said, I'm glad you said yes.
Oh, that's so sweet. I'm glad I said yes too.
Right. Well, that's one of the things about this industry is you never know, right? What's going to make it, what's not. You just have no clue. Yeah. For the most part, anyway.
I mean, I operate with a great belief in being discerning, in saying no, in turning things down. And I have this feeling like every time you say no to something, you get one step closer to what you actually do want. I believe in being able to call myself an actor with or without work. I don't need the work to feel like I'm an artist or an actor. But this is a case where luckily I had very, very intelligent people around me going, yeah, no, you do not say no to this.
Fair enough. Do you, I know this was years ago, but do you actually remember what that one line was?
I remember the improv, the first lines of improv. I can't even, wow, that's a great question. The line as written was something about me going, yeah, he's losing his marbles or something. I can't even remember, God, or maybe Jeff said that to Lester, and my response, I just improvised the line, "Sharpen your skates." I didn't even know what it really meant. I meant like get ready. I just went, "Sharpen your skates." I went, good, sharpen your skates. And then they cut, and then I started to then just riff on that idea.
So when did the building of the Canadian side of Lester come into effect?
I mean, that's them. I guess at some point in one of the seasons, he was given his lineage. I think they initially felt that he was a Jewish, of Jewish heritage, and then they added his last name, so he was half a Hindu, as they called him. And then at some point they were like, not only that, but he's from Regina.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I love that part.
Yeah,
honestly.
yeah. I love the specificity of not just Canadian, but that.
Regina.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because how many people know about Regina in the US?
Yeah, just me.
Yeah. Right. That's why I was wondering if it was your idea.
No, it's them. I mean, they're geniuses, as we know they're geniuses. So, yeah, no, it was all them.
And how did Jeffster come about? Was that all them as well, or was
there
a bit of
all them? I was somewhere near in the second season. They began to comment on some kind of ridiculous rock star swagger that I kind of was giving Lester, that he wasn't like a typical, nerdy type. And very soon after that, one of them asked me, one of the writers said, "Can you sing?" And I said, no. And they said, "Well, you're gonna." And then an episode or two later, I got a script and I was like, "Oh my Lord." And that's how that whole thing was born.
And I'm curious if anybody really expected the kind of following Jeffster would have actually received, right?
No, not at all. I didn't know anything about it. The only thing I knew, I mean, first of all, I didn't know what the song was going to be for a long, long time. I think initially it was going to be "Sweet Child of Mine," Guns N' Roses. And so I spent a lot of time working on that song just by myself, going, "Oh my God, can I sing this?" And then they were like, "Yeah, it's not going to be that." And that's sort of the nature of getting the rights to these songs. Eventually, it was obviously Africa. And all I knew is that it's going to be funny because I can't really sing it. I still find it to be an incredibly difficult song, but I wanted every pent up portion of Lester's rage, if you want to call it that, frustration, brokenness, passion, anger, that engine, to channel through whatever that comes out as. I wanted it to have a grandness in its full explosion. That's all I knew. I didn't know what it was going to be received as. When we finished singing it on set, we finished doing it, I had no idea how it went. I didn't know if it was any good or anything. So yeah, I mean, it was just an entirely in its own bubble, give over to what I think Lester would do.
Right. Well, and it became such a staple of the show. Like I'm assuming there must have been viewer polls or something to find out how popular they were in order to continue it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I'm just thinking, if they weren't getting, if they're losing viewership because of it or something, they would have stopped doing it. But obviously, it wasn't the case. It was quite the opposite.
I truly don't know. I suppose that's how TV works. I don't know. Yeah, I suppose that's what they would do if they were like, "Listen, we're in a lot of trouble because every time we put Vik on camera."
once he starts singing, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Every time you hear that voice, or if they turn the TV off, then maybe they would have stopped it. Yeah.
So technically, the show's done in 5 minutes. amazingly enough. Yes. The question I have for you is, are you okay if we go a little longer than the 30 minutes?
You weren't supposed to ask me this on air. Yeah, no, of course, I'm totally.
I just there to put you on the spot.
Yes, how dare you? Yes, let's go. Let's chit chat, man. Let's go.
Okay, I appreciate that for sure.
Of course, I appreciate this very much.
Because the one thing I did want to kind of talk about, because there's other stuff obviously I want to talk about besides Chuck. Sorry, folks that are watching, but
yeah, exactly. They're like, okay, now we're gonna turn it off.
Oh, I do have a question for you, actually.
All right.
Hello, I've watched around 90% of your movie shows. I love you and you're very talented. And I always wonder if you have a favorite character that you've played and why.
Oh, wow. Thank you for your incredible kindness. Do I have a favorite character? I don't. I would say no. They've all been incredibly special in their own ways for me. I've had experiences in a lot of different projects that have meant a lot to me. Obviously, Lester and performing and working on the music of Jeffster was very seminal and important, and an incredible twist and surprise to that whole experience. I shot a movie called Amal in India, and that was one of my first times, not my first, but one of my first times going to India as an adult and feeling something that surprised me about my own culture, my own heritage, my own ancestry. And that work and working with those actors was very important to me. I absolutely loved the writing and the ensemble on Lodge 49. And I could go on. I mean, there's a lot of experiences that I've been, as I said sort of earlier, I've been very, very fortunate. I have, and I do have deep gratitude for it in the midst of whatever frustrations are forever part of this game. So yeah, I mean, you know, I think of, I mean, this is, maybe I'm getting ahead of everything, but acting is, I think of it as a holy art. It's holy to me, and it's something that I do, yeah, out of a love that is beyond consumerism or, you know, a product. And if I was born in the 1300s, I'd be doing it. And when I'm still alive 200 years after the fall of capitalism, I'll still be doing it. So yeah, whenever I get a chance to kind of use all of me in a certain way, that's my favorite as tour.
Okay. And this is kind of a contrasting question to the last one. Is there a type of character that you shy away from that you would not really want to consider doing?
No. Type of character, no. I am only looking for the full breadth of a person on the page. That's all. I'll shy away from things that I find obviously reductive or stereotypical without any dimension, or, you know, poor writing. I'll try to stay away from. Yeah, but I don't think anybody, I can't, I mean, I don't know. You could propose a role that might make me go, yeah, I wouldn't do that. But I don't think so, to answer at this point.
Yeah, fair enough. Like off the top of your head, not really at this point.
Not really, yeah.
Thanks for the questions, by the way, folks. Appreciate that. We are going to keep going a little bit here because what I want to do is I actually want to share. I did cut down your demo reel a little bit.
Oh, God.
But I do want to show the pieces I did kind of keep, which is kind of the introductory portion, to be honest. But there's a couple of roles in there that, you know, I think really show a contrast to what you did on Chuck. And, you know, I kind of think they're brilliant, but we'll just have a peek and we'll let the other folks also chime in if they like.
Okay.
So here we go.
Okay. Can we find women? Can we find women? Are you kidding me?
Money.
Nice to see you too. Did everyone enjoy the ice breaker? I hope it was like an axe breaking the frozen sea inside you. I remember the first time I heard his voice. Summer wind. Coming over the radio at the bungalow bistro.
Mm-hmm.
It's like velvet honey.
Yep, Sinatra was.
Like honey! You know what? This shit. Cannons and saws and blowing your brains out. Savages. Animals.
People like violence.
Oh, yeah. No, I get it. But don't forget the music. Whatever it is, no matter the question, music's your answer. You know, my family owned a small market not far from here. We sold fruits, vegetables, and this being Pakistan, meat, despite being devout Hindus. For a while, everything was fine, you know. But then business started to decline. The customers were saying that our goods were making them sick. That didn't make sense. We were eating the same foods as they. Except the meat. Turned out that the only butcher in town, the previous owner of this shop, was selling us spoiled meat in order to force us to close. He didn't much care for non-Muslim owned businesses. And his plan worked. We lost everything. I begged my father, I pleaded, do something, do anything. That he resigned himself to defeat, but not me. No, I went to this butcher and I demanded he give my sister back to our family, and he refused. And when I asked why, he said, because you need me. So I did to him what he has been doing to so many animals in this very room. Said a prayer over him. Would you mind telling you I had made that night?
I personally loved that last scene.
Oh, you know what's funny is that when two things. One, when you play a video on here, for some reason my device mutes it, so I couldn't hear any of it.
Oh, no way. I
Yeah.
hope that's not the same for everybody else.
Oh, I hope not either. Secondly, I don't watch anything I do, so
Okay.
I was not looking at a lot of what you were showing. I've never really seen much of my work. I find it just too scary. So you'll have to tell me. Yeah, no, I think I caught the last scene. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but I actually want to go back to the preacher scene
Sure.
to start with. And
Yeah.
part of the reason I liked that one is I believe the character's name on that one was Frank Patel.
Yes, it was.
Right. So, and he's a musician,
Yeah, he's a lounge
right?
singer. Yeah.
So I was just wondering if there was any relation
Just
with
immediately I'm
Lester.
just stereotyped
Just
as a Patel and a Patel who sings. I have no idea. I was incredibly offered that role. I didn't even know there was singing in it when I was. Yeah, it was a couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks, I think, in New Orleans. And absolutely incredible to be around that group of actors, and Seth and Evan, and Seth and Evan directed it, and yeah, it was just that. I mean, that show was just stunning, a stunning show, and that scene in particular, the artistic direction of it, yeah, loved it.
Yeah, no, I thought it was quite entertaining, but I found your other scene also quite gripping. I loved the way you told the story.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, especially right at the end. It was just so intense. And
I shot that.
Sucked you right in.
I shot that scene, that movie, right literally the day before I flew to Atlanta to start shooting Lodge 49. And so I had that monologue, and then I got on a plane and flew to Atlanta, and I think the next morning had my first big Lodge 49 monologue as Tarquin, which is a very different flavor. So it was a time of riches and a time of grand, fortunate stress.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Yeah.
Speaking of Lodge 49,
yeah.
I personally have not seen the show.
Right. Hurtful.
But I know, right? How have I not seen absolutely everything you've seen? Exactly. I don't understand. But I have talked to a few people who have seen it, and they've I've had a few mixed reviews. I've had a few comments that it's kind of a weird show.
It's weird. It's weird. It's not for everyone. I absolutely love it. Love the depth of it. Love the feel of it. Love what it's deeply about. I find it very funny, incredibly well written. The cast just top notch. Jim Gavin, Peter Ocko, geniuses. Yeah. Wyatt Russell, Sonia. It's just, and I got to work with Olivia Sandoval. Like it's just a phenomenal group.
And it's no longer on the air though, right?
Yeah, I got 2 seasons. Hulu. Yeah.
Hulu. Yeah. Yes, thank you. That was going to be my next question. So perfect.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we don't really get Hulu up here. So.
I see. It must be on somewhere.
At least I don't.
Right. Right. Okay. When you say up here, you mean at your place?
At my place, yeah.
Yes.
Actually, I don't know. I've always kind of heard that Canada doesn't really get Hulu. I think it's supposed to be coming up here at some point, but
interesting.
That's what I've heard.
Some correlative, no?
Something, yeah. And obviously, the folks watching, if you know something different, please do chime in. Because I'd like to know where to get it.
Yes. I think you'd love it. I honestly think you'd love it. Yeah. I really do. It's a very funny, beautiful, odd, very odd. I admit that. But yeah.
Okay. No, that's fair. NCIS is another show you did.
Yeah.
That's quite a while ago, I think. But what I noticed though is that you actually played 2 different characters, 2 different seasons, even, I think.
Right.
Like one season, one another. And I think you and I even chatted a little bit about this off screen in ways, in terms of, some shows don't allow, once you've been on the show once, that's it, you're kind of done.
But let me interrupt you for a second, Gary. I actually do not know why it's listed that way.
Oh, so was it actually the same?
It's the same guy. Yeah, they brought him back for another episode. Yeah, so not to blunt your line of questioning.
No, but yeah, I'm glad to be corrected.
Yeah, it was. I don't know why. I don't know why it's written that way. I don't know if at one point they thought that they would use the different name. I actually don't know. I noticed it at some point myself. But no, it was the exact same. It was the same character a little while later.
Okay. No, that's fair.
Yeah.
Well, there goes that line of questioning.
Yeah. All right. Good night.
That one's done.
Yeah.
One of the other gentlemen that's watching right now did say that he was very impressive acting on your demo reel there.
Oh, thank you.
Which, by the way, there's another 5 minutes to that video, folks. So if you want to see it, go to IMDb and check it out. There's some really good scenes in there for sure.
It's endless. It's endless.
It's worth it though, I think.
No,
I've watched it a couple times already, so
no.
partially because I have to, to
Yeah,
prep.
exactly. You were forced to. That doesn't count.
Okay, so I mean, we kind of talked a little bit. I actually want to talk a little bit more about Amal. Amal, is that the correct title?
I
Okay.
think so. Yeah.
And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that was the one. I thought I had it written here, but I might not have. Going through my notes.
Yes.
That's what we do.
Live on the air.
Live on the air, going through my notes. Is Amal the one you? Oh, you know what? The one thing I haven't done this whole episode is actually share some of your photos.
Oh, good Lord.
Right? Like we can't have that.
What? We can't?
No, we can't go the whole show without showing at least one of these photos.
Oh,
Here we go. There, Amal. There we go. And this was with Roshan. I can't remember his last name.
Roshan Seth.
Roshan? Okay. And this was something like he was an actor that you actually really wanted to kind of work with at some point, I believe, right?
Yes, indeed. Yeah, one of the greats, one of the absolute greats. He was in it, Nazaruddin Shah, Seema Biswas. These are the legends of the Indian acting game. True, deep artists who it was an incredible opportunity to sit with the Meryl Streeps, the De Niros, the Pacinos of the Indian game. That's the level of depth and truth and access and pursuit of excellence that they approach the work with. And it was everything about that experience was sort of everything that I ever want to be doing, in terms of the work or the roles, the location. The being in India was just, its own lucid dream, and then being on set with these giants of the game, and then the actual film itself was it was very, very powerful, very moving. And that movie, I think I finished, flew back to Canada, flew to Los Angeles, and booked and started Chuck.
Oh, okay. All right. It always amazes me how sometimes how fast these things transition from one to the next.
Yeah, I mean,
and then you can have like a huge gap of nothing.
I think that seems to be, as I go along, one of the rules of life. I mean, you just sit around, you wait, and then when it rains, it pours, and you suddenly can't. I mean, my entire life has been like weeks of nothing, and then okay, everything. You have 3 things tomorrow, and then 4 more the next day, and then weeks of nothing. It's just like, can we not? Is there a way to? But yeah. So it's always such a strange whiplash to go from a character like in Amal to a character in Chuck, or a character like in Sand and Snow that you saw, to Tarquin. But that's A, part of the game, and B, I shan't complain.
Yeah, no, you're living my dream right now. So.
right now, as I sit here being interviewed.
Absolutely. I wish we had the roles reversed.
Weird.
Honestly,
I could ask you some questions.
No, that's okay. You're much more exciting. Trust me. Speaking of kind of downtime, especially with the way COVID has been almost year and a bit now.
Yeah,
at least. Have you been able to kind of find work in between, or has it been pretty?
I mean, it's been there's been moments where there's been some incredibly heartbreaking close calls on stuff, but the real mentality is, we're in such a odd liminal moment right now, especially here, in California and Los Angeles. It's, feels very almost unfair to say, compared to some places in Canada and the rest of the world. California and Los Angeles are teetering towards health and vaccinations and going back out into the world. And we've spent a year in like sometimes the most ferocious epicenter. Suddenly people are like, okay, you can kind of go out. And I'm like, yeah, do I want to? Or how does this work? I mean, I've just got the home tech down and the home workouts down. But to answer your question, for a long time, there was nothing, just like zero, nothing at all, zero. And now in the last little while, there's been opportunities which have punched me in the face at the last minute. So thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, no problem.
It's this industry. So that's been hurtful and harsh, but it does feel like, for a while when the opportunities started to drip in, it was like this shoots in New Zealand or this shoots only in such and such. And now I'm seeing more things that are like, okay, this shoots in Los Angeles, this shoots here. And so I think that there's an emergence. I suppose what I could say is the positive thing that happened industry-wise for me, or is happening, is that I took on a project a play that I got the rights for, that I'm having adapted into a film that I will hopefully star in and I am producing. So that was the first kind of real, and that's been kind of growing steam and getting more and more on its way as tour. And I think I sort of began it before COVID, but I have a kind of an old school potentially mentality around the industry, where I'm like, you get into the industry and then you get work, you audition, you get work, and then you kind of climb the ranks. And that's really not how anything really works. Sure, that could happen, but really you should be creating your own content. That's the truth. And I am no good at it. And so this is sort of my first version of it. And I've begun jamming with a couple of other people about projects on whatever scale it might be. And my mind through COVID has opened to, creating content, which I've found a tickle in my stomach about, an excitement that I didn't expect. So,
okay.
That's, I suppose, the good thing that's come out of the COVID industry stuff.
Well, if you want to work with people that are constantly developing their own work, Calgary's the place to come, man.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
That's what
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Hang on.
So,
let's a ticket.
Yeah, hop a plane. There you go.
Yeah.
Right now.
Okay.
Don't worry about cases or anything.
All right. What if I showed up behind you? But I was like, hang on. And then I showed up behind you. Yeah. It's like, hey, man.
That was quick. Teleportation. Nice to know.
Yeah.
All right. I do have another question that popped up here. And they're actually just asking if you're able to say what play you're redeveloping. And if you can't, that's fine.
Let's not say it yet.
Fair enough.
Not say it yet. I don't know if it would be something that anybody's heard of. It's an unproduced play. So probably, unless you're very in the know, it's a Canadian play. Okay. But it's been unproduced. It's been workshopped a lot in Canada, but it's been not mounted. So I still feel like I won't say yet.
Yep, no, that's fair. Understood. It's that kind of industry anyway, right? Like, especially if you're working on a fresh project, you want to keep it down on the down low.
I think so. I think
all
so.
The pieces are put together.
So. Yeah.
It's all part of the game.
Yeah, the damn game.
You know what? Unless other folks have some other questions, I'm gonna wrap it up fairly soon here.
Okay, man.
Um, I do want to share because there was a lot of Chuck fans that I think they were watching, so I got to share a couple of photos that you did share with me
Okay.
from Chuck. Since I have them,
Oh boy.
and
The leather. The
the
leather.
leather, right? Do you recall what were honestly? I was telling you about the Chuck group I joined on Facebook.
Yeah.
I bet you all of them can guess exactly what episode this was and probably at what
I
time frame.
wouldn't even venture a guess of the name of the episode, but I'm sure they know.
Yes, I would think so as well. So
I do remember the circumstances, mind you.
well, I mean, a lot of them are so unique, and I know I had mentioned this to you before. Is the one that really stuck out for me was the "Push It" song when you did "Push It" for Salt and Pepper.
Gosh.
Salt and Pepper, sorry.
Yeah, Peppa.
Yes, gotta get that right. I watched that clip again just recently, and there's just so many nuances with the whole pregnancy portion that was going on, and the way you were, shall we say, gyrating.
Yes.
Yeah,
Gyrating is the medical term. Yes.
yeah, and I don't know. It just looked like an absolute joy to be on that set at that
I mean,
point.
listen, it was all a joy. The songs were stressful to do and scary because I wanted them to be excellent in whatever that version means of that. There was a steep learning curve in terms of how to even breathe during songs. I mean, that song, like I think I said to you, there were songs that I thought I knew. I was like, well, I know this song. Then you go to do them, you go to kind of record them, you go to perform them on the day. And I was just drenched in sweat. I was like, when do these people breathe? Like, where do they take a breath? I would like have to score the song, like the music, and go, breathe here, quick breath here, breathe here, quick breath here, pause, pause, pause. It just was, it was very, very physical. They're all very physical. And that day, yeah, they would just like do things. And so we would do it again and again. And the extras were incredible. Scott is always incredible. And so we just jumped into these characters and did what they would do around pregnant women.
Right. And Matt, I'll get to your question in one quick second here. The one thing I was going to say is when it does come to the background actors on that show, that was the one thing that I always found amazing as well, is you guys pretty much had the exact same backgrounds throughout all 5 seasons.
Yeah.
And your little homage that you guys did at the last episode with them getting some speaking parts and stuff like that. I thought that was all just phenomenal.
It's beautiful. They were amazing. And anytime you're doing a scene and you can look kind of in any direction and see an engagement back at you from every sphere, everybody. It was very, very, very hilarious and insane and helpful and great and all of it.
Yeah. It was a good show. Let's just wrap it up at that.
It was a good show.
It's all right.
Yeah, it's all right.
Matt, to ask your question, he's wondering who your favorite director is that you've worked with.
Oh wow, I'm gonna start by refusing to answer that question. Look, again, there's a plethora of people that I have been guided by, helped by, supported by, scolded by, that make everything that I get to do, that we get to do, that actors get to do, smooth and safe, and give you the freedom to experiment, to fail. You're putting yourself out there between action and cut, which is probably a space that I feel weirdly most comfortable in, but it requires a development of a kind of fertile mud out of which things can grow. And the directors that can witness that, can be there, can see what you're trying to do, that get it, that understand it, that encourage it, that guide you gently. Or sometimes you want that, personal trainer. Those are the directors, right? Those are the directors. And I've been very lucky to be around people who get that. Many of them on Chuck. I'm remiss to name people. Robbie McNeil. People were just very, very good on Chuck at that. And then on and on. Just really people who understand what the actor has to go through, what the actor is, what the actor does. That kind of need to be so wide open in your gut and vulnerable and there's a privacy, there's a self-reliance, but that camera's on you, and you have to, you're exposing your heart. You're exposing your heart, and you need someone to be very tender with it, in a sense, or at least understand it. And I've been very lucky to be, around people who can take care of this overly sensitive thing.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So sorry, Matt, but you're not getting names.
Poor
Matt.
Maybe it's Matt. Maybe Matt is my favorite director.
You know what? Funny enough, he is a local director here in Calgary. Director/producer.
Hit me up, Matt.
Yeah, there you go. There you go, Matt. You've got the public invite there.
Indeed.
Do you have another question that popped up? Do you have a favorite Jeffster song that you've performed? And the lady asking, Amy, says that her favorite is This Love.
Oh, wow. I felt there were a couple of songs that I felt were very, 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 very difficult for me. Is This Love being one of them. I found Africa very difficult. I think that, when I got to around the I would like to reach out my hand. You sent me on my way, and the Simon and Garfunkel songs. I think around that time I started to begin to understand something about my own voice. And it allowed me to begin to have some modicum of a beginning of control over what I wanted Lester to be putting into the music emotionally. And so that there was a bit of a turning point ever so slightly there, kind of just for me internally, of going, okay, if I breathe here, if I take a second here, if I go quieter here, if I kind of push into this a little bit, if I tell the story of the song, not Simon and Garfunkel. Why did I say Simon and Garfunkel? Leave It on a Jet Plane. We were dressed sort of as Simon and Garfunkel. Then that kind of middle portion, I kind of have a fondness for, because I think the music suited my actual girlish tenor of a voice, and I started to go, okay, all right, so this is how you tell this story. Whereas some of the other songs, I mean, Mr. Roboto, Fortunate Son, there was a ferociousness of performance there. and I started to get something. But I think that when something, for a moment, there was a couple of songs that kind of went into my own vocal range. I was like, okay. And then when I came out of it, I was able to kind of still kind of go, all right. I'm fighting this. I'm fighting something. I'm going to try and get this. But I kind of was like, this is how you kind of begin to control something of what you want out there.
Okay, fair enough.
The response from you that I love the most is the pause, and then the fair enough.
Yeah.
He's babbled on and not answered the question.
Have you thought about politics?
Yes.
On that note, unless there's another couple of questions on the agenda here from anybody watching, I think we'll kind of wrap it up because we've actually gone an hour. So
right on.
Yeah, I so appreciate your time.
Of course, man. Of course, I appreciate
hanging around
you
for a little extra.
Even wanting to hear me babble.
Somebody just asked if you want to sing some karaoke.
Yeah, of course. Let's do it.
Right? Let's do it right now.
Yeah.
Let's see what we got here. Well, we'll go with November Rain.
Oh yeah, all right. Little Guns N' Roses.
Right? Why not? Or Sweet Child of Mine. All of those. They've got some really high ranges there. That
I have that song now mastered.
Right? Exactly. Yeah.
So easy. Axl Rose. So easy.
So easy. Oh, just the thought of it makes my throat hurt.
Yeah. Oh, that beautiful screech that he can do. God, it's actually gorgeous.
It is. Amazing. It really is. Like
it really is. Like it truly is. Yeah.
He's super.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
On that note, thank you very much for the folks watching. Thank you so much for commenting and asking your questions. Highly
very appreciated. Very appreciated.
And just a quick reminder, if you don't mind, just click that subscribe button. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. And I'll let you go so you can enjoy the rest of your week. And same with everybody else.
I'm just literally going to be sitting here waiting for our next chat.
Okay, well, let's set that up right now.
Okay.
So,
no, don't
10 minutes?
Surprise me.
Oh, okay. All right.
Just come on suddenly.
Might be 10, might be 15 minutes. That's fine.
Right.
Yeah. So thanks again, and everybody else have a great night. And we will see you in 2 weeks' time, which I might as well announce here that I will not be hosting the next episode. It'll be my colleague, Chingiz Javeri. So I'm looking forward to that. He has hosted before, and he will do fantastic once again. So get your calendars ready for February, April 18th or 28th. Can't get my dates right at all.
Easy.
And check it out, and it'll be a good show. So thanks, and good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Love ya.